Yeah, the video is titled "Oh, the Places You'll Flow," making fun of the places you'll go. Dr. Seuss book.
Oh, I look forward to hearing that one.
All right. Hit the record button, and we are off and running. Let's get that up. Okay. You ready?
All right.
Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 28 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. I'm Wayne. I'm here once again with Steve. How's it going tonight, Steve?
It is going great, Wayne. Good to be with you. Another great night to do a podcast.
It sure is. The clocks have changed, so it's getting dark later. I'm liking that, although we are doing it a little later than we normally do on our normal night of... well, tonight is Thursday, so we've been alternating between Thursdays and Fridays between doing these things. But tonight it's Thursday, so and it's a little later than we normally start. But hey, we're getting it done. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got we've got some playoff races to talk about, and in that sense, there's some teams that have kind of dropping out. The teams that are dropping out are adding up. We'll put it that way.
Yep.
And then I attended a NHL game this week. I'll have stories from that.
Excited to hear about that.
Yep. And got a disturbing story coming out of the KHL to talk about. We actually have, according to NHL.com anyway, two teams that have been officially eliminated from NHL playoff contention, like mathematically eliminated, not just realistically eliminated.
Right.
I only calculated one team eliminated, but apparently there's a second one. So we'll have all this and more. So let's get started. Of course, we always start by talking about our favorite teams. And it's been a busy week because it's been, 9 days since we last recorded?
Yes, it has been, Wayne. We did last Tuesday night. We won't go into details why we got a little bit behind, but suffice to say, this is the first recording in 9 days. But it's back to the normal time that we would record.
Yep.
But doesn't it make a long story short? There's so much hockey going on this time of year, and in so many different areas that a lot of news piles up quickly.
Yeah, it sure does. Even without having a lot of transactions, although we actually do have transactions to talk about this week, just not too much on the player side of things because the trade deadline passed there a couple of weeks ago. But let's start by talking about, I don't know, you want to talk about the Rangers to start the show?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, I'm ready to go. The New York Rangers, I think it's plain to say are not going to make the playoffs, Wayne.
Nope.
We've had our discussion. If they were to win the rest of their games, and I think they have 11 games, it's either 10 or 11 games left. They'd have 93 points. They'd probably make a valiant effort of it, but I don't think that that would even be enough. It might possibly, theoretically, they could possibly, if they won the rest of their games, it might be enough to catch Columbus, but I doubt it. And so I think we're talking about my team is probably not going to make the playoffs. However, I am encouraged and excited about a lot of things that I saw in this past week. And as a Rangers fan, if you are a Rangers fan of any length of time at all, you go through these times where our team does not has its ups and downs. Not since Henrik has come along in a long time, but even with Henrik this year, we've had a tough go of it. It's been a difficult season for us, but I'm encouraged by a lot of things, and I'll touch on some of them during the night. But we let it suffice to say we played Winnipeg on March the 6th, and that was the Patrick Laine show. They beat us 3-0, and he had a hat trick. And he is truly an amazing player. He really is. If you were to take him and Connor McDavid now and look at them together, I don't know who you'd say would be the better player right now in the NHL, because Patrick Laine is playing every bit as good as one of the best players in the game.
And he hasn't even turned 20 yet.
Hasn't even turned 20, and
Yep.
they talked about that immensely that night. But he is truly that wrist shot of his is something to watch. It's a thing of beauty. Winnipeg won that game going away. We could not score on Connor Hellebuck, and they really easily won that game. It was never a contest, really. We didn't have anything to answer for him. I'm trying to remember whether Alexander Georgiev was in net that game. I don't have my notes here in front of me.
He's been playing a lot lately. Yeah.
He has been, and he's played very well.
Yep.
I'm very encouraged. That's one of the bright spots. I'm going to hope that the Rangers actually keep him and make Andrei Pavlik have to contest for his job back. He's played that well.
I would say go with Georgiev and Henrik next year.
Yeah, yep, and make Pavlik have to work, come back and have to work to get his job back. And he may. Anyways, we'll move on from there. The next game was against the Tampa Bay Lightning on the 8th, which was, I think it was last Thursday night. Wayne, I'm sitting here trying to put it together, but it was a game televised, I believe, on the NHL network. I'm not sure, but I remember watching that game, and I watched Tampa Bay just dissect us. They were ahead 5-1 at the end of the second period. And I felt like, well, we're not going to make the playoffs. We're just not going to make it. And just, was disappointed, kind of disheartened. But I was encouraged again that we came out in the third period and scored 2 goals on Tampa Bay, came back. The team didn't give up. They came back and scored 2 goals. Tampa Bay odds on right now on my power rankings, they're the best team in the NHL. So I was pleased again.
Spoiler alert.
Our team. Yeah, I was pleased to see them come back, not give up in that game. We do have another game against Tampa at the end of the year, and so maybe we'll be able to. We have beat them this year, so maybe we'll be able to win the season series against them. In the game against Florida, 4-3 shootout loss. That was a great game. I don't know if you watched it, but I know that we played our hearts out in that game. A game, I really think we deserved to win. But we lost in the shootout. There was really no reason for the team to hold their heads after that game. We played awesome. Of course, we had a lot of support in the Miami area, once again, as we always do. And the whole game, we were in it. We played tough against them. Florida might make the playoffs, although I still am skeptical of that. It's getting late, and they are 5 points out. Last I saw, 4 to 5 points out behind Columbus. But they're making a go of it. We played very well against them.
Yeah, they have 3 games in hand on everybody else in the East, so that gives them a huge advantage, or at least gives them the opportunity to come back.
Right. They're playing great. They got some great players on their team as well. With Bukestad, Huberdeau, Hubie Doobie.
Hoobie doobie doo.
Hubie Doobie Doo. They've got some real great players on their team, but we were with them the whole night and very easily could have won that game. A rare, sometimes I don't know how Henrik does it, but a rare shootout loss. He plays very well in shootouts. Then we get to this weekend, or it might have been Monday night. We played Carolina. It was on the 12th, excuse me. That was, I believe that was Monday night. We played Carolina. We played great in that game. Jimmy Vesey had a tremendous game. He scored a hat trick, his first hat trick in the NHL, and really was the player of the game. He and Buchnevich were awesome in that game. And I'm trying to get through this quickly. We played last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, which was a thrilling game. And I felt like they could have given up when they were down 2-0. But we came out in the third period and just hands down totally outplayed Pittsburgh. I'm not sure how good Pittsburgh really is. to give up a lead like that, but they gave up a 2-0 lead. Georgiev was fantastic in net last night. It really wrestled the win away. Des Smith for Pittsburgh. That's while he's playing well, I wouldn't say he's. Last night I don't know how hard he was tested, but when he was tested hard, when we really played well in the third period, he didn't. And that's a weakness that the Penguins have after their 2 Stanley Cup years. Their backup goal situation going into the playoffs is something that they're going to need to look very seriously at, and probably are looking very seriously at. But we won that game last night 4-3, and I think that's enough. I've talked long enough about the Rangers, but we're playing well. You know, I'm pleased with how we're playing. We could have the only game we were really out on, besides the Tampa Bay game, and came back in that one, was the Winnipeg game. Otherwise, we competed really well with each team we played this week. So I'm happy about that.
And I watched a little bit of that game last night, and I think I helped the Rangers last night because what I was doing, I was trying to keep my standings board that's behind me here up to date. And I went ahead when Pittsburgh was up 2-0. I went ahead and gave Pittsburgh the 2-0 win in hopes that it would jinx Pittsburgh into losing that game. And I had at one point I had my board updated to show in Pittsburgh with the win and the Rangers with the loss, and I had to go ahead and change it at the end of that game because
that's good. I got to work this morning, and as you know, I get in at like the crack of dawn, and my coworker looked at me and he goes, "So Steve, is this going to be a good day?" I said, "Oh, it's going to be a great day. We beat the Penguins last night," and I got a real wry laugh out of him. So it was a good day all around.
Yep, and you know, talking about the goaltending situation of Pittsburgh, with Matt Murray being out, I don't know what the timetable is for his return. I think everyone's saying he'll be back by the playoffs, but I think that is really Pittsburgh's Achilles heel this year. If they're going to get knocked out in the playoffs, that's going to be a case where you know, the goaltending might be their Achilles heel. If Matt Murray gets hurt again this year in the playoffs, and he's gotten hurt each of the last 2 years in the playoffs.
Right.
And if that happens, there's no Marc-Andre Fleury to bail him out this time.
That's right.
So
and listen, I'm just going to tell it to you like it is. I think that Smith had moments, great moments last night. He played very, very good, made some great saves in the first couple of periods. But I think Georgiev was a better goalie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. I watched parts of that game. Yeah.
Yep. I'm happy we have Georgiev in net.
He made some nice saves last night. He really did.
He did. So
and I don't think the Smith is their number 2 by any stretch. I think Jari is their clear number 2 in Pittsburgh, but he's no showstopper either. So
right.
You know, both of them are doing admirably well, just trying to fill in the nets until Murray's back. But Murray's the clear number 1 there for sure.
Right.
So, yeah, all around a fairly up and down week for the Rangers. And yet they're not knocked out yet. They're still scratching and clawing, although I think they're a little too far behind to you know, make a serious playoff run. They're going to need some help from teams above them. There's too many teams to pass at this point. Right.
I'm resolved to think. I mean, you know, it's not something that is impossible. But I just don't – they have a lot of road games still. We play some tough teams. Tampa Bay is just one of them. We've got the Flyers coming up twice.
Yep.
We have Columbus coming up, I believe. We play St. Louis on the weekend.
Yep.
And then we play against the Blue Jackets. So there's some very difficult games coming up.
And if they're going to –
they have to win every one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they're gonna make it to the playoffs, they're going to have to lose no more than 2 more games. The rest of the way, and then hope that everybody above them kind of falters a little bit. So, the odds are long, but they're not quite out yet.
Right.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Bruins for a little bit.
Yep.
And they've had a busy week as well. Going back to the 6th, they had a 6-5 overtime win against Detroit. That's a game I missed because I was working. They also had a 3-2 win against Philadelphia on the 8th. That was an afternoon game. I completely missed that due to work. So, yeah, not off to a good start this week. But the Bruins have been rolling, and they've been winning games despite the fact that I haven't been able to witness them. And then they had a 7-4 win against Chicago, the first game of a home-and-home. That was also a home game. And then right after that, the next day, which was a Sunday, I believe, they went to Chicago and ended up losing 3-1. And that was a case where they just simply got outplayed by Chicago in that game. And then the game of the week for the Bruins, in terms of my interest anyway, was a game at Carolina on the 13th. That was what, Tuesday night?
Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night. I went to that game with a guy I work with who's a Carolina Hurricanes fan. So him and I both went to the game. He had his Brian Bickle jersey on. I had my green Bruins Patrice Bergeron jersey on. We went and sat up in the nosebleeds and watched that game from up there. And the first 50 minutes of that game was pretty disappointing on my end, because with about 10 minutes to go in the third period, the Bruins were down 4-1. And so I'm thinking, they're done. He's already checking the standings to see, what with those 2 points, what's going to happen. Do the Hurricanes have a chance to catch the teams ahead of them? Because Columbus and New Jersey and all the teams that are ahead of them in the standings were off on Tuesday night. So he's like, all right, here we go. We got 2 points. So he's already counting his chickens, right? So all of a sudden, Boston scores another goal. And then a few minutes later, they score another goal. And then before we knew it, it was tied 4-4. They scored 3 goals in about a minute and a half of clock time, probably about 5 minutes in real time to tie the game. And then the place was going nuts. I mean, there were so many Bruins fans there. They were going absolutely crazy. It was amazing to see all the Bruins fans just jumping around, going nuts. It felt like we were in Boston. That's I mean, half the crowd. And right before, when it was 4-1, right before the Bruins scored their second goal, I looked down in the lower bowl and I could see a lot of Bruins fans just, going up the stairs, heading out of the arena. I'm like, these people are stupid. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And sure enough, the Bruins came back and tied it. And of course, once you leave the building, that the rules are at that rink, once you leave the building, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no return.
You got to listen to it in the car in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's right. You're listening to it in the car in the parking lot. So, the Bruins came back and tied it. Then they got the go-ahead goal and then right in the last minute of the game, they got the empty netter to seal the win. And it was probably, of all the Bruins games that I've gone to in person, and I've gone to quite a few, I've been to just about every Bruins game that has been played at Carolina since we moved down here. I try to go to every game. And I think I've only missed one that I can remember anyway. That's by far the best one I've seen yet. And then including all the games that I've seen in Boston when I was living up there. To see a 4-1, comeback, 3-goal deficit in the last 10 minutes of the game reminded me of the 2013 first round of the playoffs against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, of course, Leafs fans are going to be mad at me for bringing this up because it's still a sore point for them.
And I watched this game on TV. I remember this game very well.
The 2013 game?
Yeah. Down 3. Weren't you down 3-0?
They were down 4-1 in the third period. About the same.
In the series.
Oh, the series was tied 3-3. It was Game 7.
Okay, I could have sworn you were down 3-0, came back and won that series 4-3, but I could be wrong.
No, they were down 4-1 with about the same amount of time left to go in the game. Little over 10 minutes to go in the game, Game 7, and the Bruins came back and tied the game. It took them the entire 10 minutes though to get it tied. Not like Carolina the other night where they tied it, within a couple of minutes of clock time, they had that game tied. There was still like 9-something left to go in the game when they tied it the other night. But the one in Toronto, they tied the game in the last minute of the game, took it to overtime, and then won the game in overtime and the series.
Wow.
So yeah, that series is still a very sore point for Toronto, even now. But that game reminded me a lot of that game. So yeah, it was an amazing game the other night to witness in person. Of course, the guy that I was with was bummed, and he's still bummed. I saw him today because not only did that game, the nature of the loss really hurt, but the fact that Carolina really needed those 2 points to keep their playoff hopes alive. It was pretty much, in my mind, it was the final nail in the coffin for Carolina in terms of playoff hopes.
Yeah.
So
they've had a great season, though, Wayne. They have played into the playoff contention. But I don't know. I think Carolina is going to hang around until the last week of the season, and they've got a chance. They've got a real good chance that they can crack that top 8, maybe get in flip places with Columbus or something, or perhaps New Jersey. They're definitely in a much better position of contention than a team like the New York Rangers or even the New York Islanders. Put them in that position there. I don't think the Islanders are going to make the playoffs. So I think that Carolina stands a very good chance they can still make it.
So, well, that's good. Yeah, and the thing with Carolina, the thing that's just been so frustrating with them is in the games that they needed, and quite frankly, they needed to get 2 points against the Rangers. They got the 2 points against Chicago earlier in the week, and they, it's going to be hard to get 2 points against Minnesota at Minnesota. But if they could have snuck out a point there, they just gave up too many points along the way.
Yeah. They got into the, I wouldn't say that they shoot themselves in the foot, Wayne. I would say that at times they seem to be when the momentum swings come in the game, Carolina is very fragile to that.
Yep.
They seem to be a team that when hit by they know it's coming. It's almost like they because each and every hockey game has it. When the momentum swings and goes against them, they seem to be a fragile team at that point. And they don't seem to be able to recover from that and become consistent, stop the bleeding and get it going again. And, oh, yeah, they gave up one goal. Or they didn't even give up a goal. The momentum swung and they were able to hold their own. At least that's how it felt the other night in the Rangers game. When Jimmy Vesey came down the ice and hit that shot, that blistering slap shot right over Darling's shoulder, that really, really put them out.
Yeah.
They couldn't come back from that. And they just, that was it. And, so that's where I see them as a team, at least if I use that game as an example, that they can still shore it up and make the playoffs. That's what they got to do. Yep. When you feel that momentum swing, stop the bleeding, as little damage as possible, turn around, get it going again, and don't look back.
Well, what I'm amazed at is the other night, for example, how quickly the Bruins came back. I was expecting them to call a timeout when they got to within one, when they scored 2 goals, bang bang, 4-1, 4-2, or 4-2, 4-3. After that, the third Bruin goal, which happened, the second and the third goal happened like less than a minute. That's where, if I'm the coach of the Hurricanes, I'm going, timeout here. We got to get control. He didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's thinking, save that timeout in case you need to challenge a goal.
Right.
Because if you don't have the timeout, I think you lose the ability to challenge. I think that's the way the rule is on goalie interference.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, yeah.
You
Well, that's a good point. And Wayne, I think we talked about this on the show before, and I don't want to digress. The NHL really needs to have 2 timeouts in a game for each team. I really think that a second timeout for each team helps tremendously. Although you do have instances where the team does get a second timeout if they coach a challenge. I'm talking about being able to use a timeout for a second time in a game is important. But regardless,
or just don't tie any challenges to timeouts. Make it penalty across the board. If you're
right.
You can challenge as many times as you want, but for each challenge that you're wrong, it's 2-minute penalty.
Right.
Across the board. And don't tie it to the timeout. Keep the one, because they already get plenty of timeouts. If you think of all those TV timeouts.
Yeah, there's TV timeouts.
They're getting three TV timeouts a period.
Right.
And the whole time, both teams are at their benches, and they're discussing stuff during those.
Sure.
So they're essentially having built-in TV timeouts every period. I mean, even the goalies are coming to the bench during those timeouts. And, we don't see it on TV because they're in commercial break. But when you actually go to the games and you're seeing the players, all the players during those TV timeouts are going to the bench, and the coach is down on the floor, right up against the boards, discussing this, discussing that. So as far as that goes, yeah, they have plenty of timeouts that they can use to get the troops together and discuss strategies and whatnot.
I've seen it before though, and it's not a rare occurrence that a coach has to use his timeout in the first period.
Yep.
Because a team will come out and they will not be ready.
Yep.
And the 2-3 goals down. It happened to the Rangers not too long ago. We were 3 goals down early on in the game against and I'm going back like 3 or 4 weeks, but the team scored 3 goals on us in the first 4 minutes of the game. Vigneault used his timeout, and the rest of the game we were fighting back. It was 3-2, but we could never get back. And that's what I'm saying is in games like